Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Thanks for tuning in on this episode. We have Bad Company back. Haven't seen Bad Company for a while. From my clan, Cartel, he's driving his T30 Tier 9 American TD, which is essentially a heavy tank. No idea why they call it a TD, other than the fact that it lugs around a 750 Alpha gun with a long reload. It is essentially a heavy tank. Did I say it's a heavy tank? It's a heavy tank. Anyway, the T30, we are on Live Oaks, loaded into the northeast spawn on a standard map or a standard game mode, and he's headed down here on the tracks. The meta on this map has changed recently, and when I say recently, sometimes I get a little confused because I've been around doing this for 6 years on this game, but by recently I mean the last year, maybe year and a half at the most. But the tracks are where it is at on this map. That doesn't mean that the town can be ignored, and you can see that his team is largely ignoring it. The good news is that the enemy team has largely ignored the town as well. So let's see how this develops here. Bad Company is platooned with some pretty good names. We got Gunner the Shid. I suppose that's supposed to mean something else. And BadComp0ny, which is a great name. Both from my clan, and I guess I'm a little embarrassed to say I haven't met either one of those guys, but I haven't met many of them. All right, here we go. Coming on in, and the enemy team has sent a lot of guys. The T30 is relatively slow, so you can see that Bad Company's having a little bit of an issue getting up there, at least being up there while the rest of his team is there. His faster tanks are there. He's going to shoot into that really strong rounded turret of the Object 430 version 2, and that will bounce, and we're going to go ahead and head down here. This tank has very good gun depression, so this area where he's moving up to should be a good place for him to fight. He's got a 7/1 with Obi-Wan, which is a great hold-down fighter. The 111-1-4 kind of indifferent on the hold-down side, but you can see he's lower in the echelon, so he can actually get around there. Get his gun onto the targets. The enemy has a lot of tanks, and there's a bunch of guys in the back, and unfortunately, Bad Company's team gets a little over-aggressive. That was an interesting choice for me right there. That guy probably would have died to somebody else. I think I would have shot him as well, but it's one of those hindsight things. You look at that and go, man, someone else is probably going to kill him. So it's a trade-off. Do I make sure he goes away? Look at this leopard one. He's like, oh my gosh, don't do that. Do I make sure that Scorpion G goes away, or do I drop the bomb on that, what was he, 200 hit point guy with my 750 Alpha? I think a lot of people would say, hey, remove a gun from the game, but unfortunately, you can see that Bad Company's team has pretty much lost the plot here. They've been absolutely massacred as they came up and over there. The game is still relatively even, but his E50's really doing his best here. See if he can keep him alive, but he just doesn't reload fast enough. I believe this 54 Mod 1 ends up killing off the E50. Nope, the 59 got him. There goes the Mod 1. And you can see that if you watch what was going up in the north, not a whole bunch. Let's talk about that a little bit, because it's interesting to me what happens next as they start to clean this up. Most of Bad Company's team that's fighting is down here in the south. Most of the enemy team that's fighting has died down here in the south as well. There were a few guys that went up into the town. There was a very small skirmish there with the T30. I didn't catch whether he camped or moved back, but in any event, he's back by the cap with the Uds kind of on the railroad track right there. What I typically say when you've won a flank is you need to turn right back around. You need to turn right back around and go back to the cap and deal with anything that's pushing on your cap before you try to push to there. So let's watch what Bad Company's team does. There are a couple more tanks here, so you can't really classify this flank as completely won. That's where it's a little judgment call is going to be made. But because the Type and the JP have pulled back, I think I'd have actually turned around and gone back to cap. This ends up being a really good game for Bad Company. So let's just watch how this plays out, because it is kind of interesting. Most of the guys, in fact all of the guys that went on this flank are all going to push to the cap, even though their cap is in danger. One thing they are seeing is the T34 is back there at least guarding it for the moment. But he's going to die here in a bit. That's a big bounce. He bounces 1,000 from the JPZ-100. Thank goodness that did not go in, because that would have changed this fight considerably. They start working over that Type 59, and then they keep on pushing in. All right, so they have moved up here. They went to make sure the Type and the TD did not come up behind them. It looks like the JP2 went down, but they're all going to drive out into this open flat area. Now, you have to know, you absolutely have to know that there are In fact, you see them right here. There are several TDs and maybe another heavy or whatever, maybe even a light or a medium, I mean, sitting here just waiting for you to come up and over this ridge and get out in this open area and just eat you alive. So it's very, very foolish to go around there. The only way to approach it is along this lower part, but even so, if not in danger from anyone over here, which they are not, then they can still just drive up to the edge and blast you down in the swamp down here. The other thing about guys who go to that spot in TDs right here, these guys, they're passives. They're passives. They go there because they're going to camp. These are people who don't really have a really good idea typically of how to push or when to push or how to position, except to know that they have a good TD position at point X. They go there and they basically fight from there and die. So if they have a bad team that pushes into them, or a team that gets beat up enough that pushes into them, they can sometimes have a pretty good game, and they'll congratulate themselves and say, hey, look, I helped win that game because of my positioning. I had great positioning here where I camped the entire game. But more than likely what ends up happening to them, and more often than not, is they die in place. Their team dies somewhere else and they die in place. I go through all of that because it is part of my point about going back. If Bad Company's entire team had turned around and gone back, they would have eaten up this T34 or T10, whatever it is that's coming down the east side. Probably would have caught out the T49. They'd have killed the push on their cap, and they'd have been all together, and then they could have started figuring out how they were going to slice and dice the camping TDs. Because I'm telling you, those guys are passives, and they would not have gone anywhere. They'd still be sitting there. So student body right up to the north, clear your cap off. No reason to push their cap. You can't cap in that situation because there's too many enemy guns in the game, and they happen to be giant TDs sitting on that ridge. So trying to push into them is just silly. Go find the guys who are pushing onto your cap, being dopey, take them down, and then turn around. And this is what Bad Company's doing. So, you know, we get there a little bit later, and he's doing a nice job getting in there. But we've lost a couple tanks that have pushed into him. Now, the T10 went up there, and he was probably thinking, hey, I need to get up and start lighting these guys so my sniper dudes back here can start taking them on. But the problem is the situation didn't exist for him to do that. They needed to clear off their own cap. Look, there's a damn T49 sitting on it trying to cap you out. And they're reacting. Bad Company's team is reacting, but it's just late. Like I said, had they just all, you know, about the time the JPZ got done and that Type 59 got taken out, I'd have just backed off that ridge, turned around, and headed back to cap. It would have taken them forever to come up behind them, and they would have seen them if they pushed across the open field, and they can fight from the zero line to kill off anything that's on the cap and doing all that stuff. But Bad Company's doing a nice job coming back here, figuring out what's going on. We got the Uds, and there's the danger of getting into that spot. The Uds got spotted, and there you go. All those TDs, the Rev, whatever's sitting over there. It doesn't take much movement from that middle spot. It's a nice shot right there. It doesn't take much movement from this kind of area over here to get into draw range of anybody who's sitting in this little ditch down here. This whole ditch, getting in this ditch is just a death wish. Getting down into the bottom of it, especially if you don't own all the top of it. So we got Bad coming back. I'm just going to speed this up because there's 2 of him and 4 of them, and he's coming all the way back, which he has to do. It's a good move. Here we go. What do we got? That guy. There goes the JPZ. That was a good kill. And we got the Rev. Remember the bounce he had on the JPZ. That's important here because he's going to have the hit points to do this kind of stuff. Comes around, gets a hit on him. The Rev hits hard. Reloads inside of the T30, which can give him trouble if he's not careful. Oof, got him again. Gonna come down here, and he's basically got Bad down to a 1-shot, but oh, look at that. Bounced it. Bounced it. And the T92 didn't do quite enough damage, down to 38. Meanwhile, the third tank is down, and all we've got is this T92. We'll just speed this up. Find him pretty quick. Come around over here. It's always fun to watch artillery go down, so to speak. Blap. There he goes. 7 kills, 4,853, 2,180 bounced. One of them being that really huge shot coming in from the JPZ 100, and 867 spotted. So overall, a really good game. You can see that. But I would say that probably if his team had just simply turned around, gone back, cleaned up cap, and then come back at him, it wouldn't have been anywhere near this close. It's just something to think about when you clear your cap, you should really probably go back unless there's a compelling reason to go on. And the only compelling reasons to go on is your team has just simply won everywhere. You won the other flank and you're pushing cap from that way. Yeah, press on. Go for it. Or you've been slaughtered so badly that your only hope is to jump on their cap and attempt to fast cap them. And those are cases where you probably want to do it with a fast tank. Maybe you're already near the cap and you can get there very quickly and there's 2 or 3 of you. Because if you just put one guy on like that T30 does, even slow tanks can get back if you're only putting one guy on cap. All right, that's it. Nice job there, Bad Company. Appreciate the replay sent in, brother. And for everybody else, hope you like what you saw. Hope you learned something along the way. And if you did, make sure you subscribe or subscribe, whatever I was trying to say. We will see you.